From the Cold Formed Steel Buildings Association, this is Cold Formed Buildings Made Easy with your hosts, John Cosper and Lauren Toole.
Hello and welcome to Cold Formed Buildings Made Easy, a podcast presented by the Cold Formed Steel Building Association. My name is John Cosper, my co-host is Lauren Toole, and today we are speaking with Synthia El Hoyek. She is with Metroll USA, located in Southern California. Synthia, I did pronounce your name right, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Wonderful, wonderful. I had a chance to visit with Synthia and some of her team last year and go see some buildings that they've put up in Southern California. They've got kind of a unique situation out there with some of the special requirements of buildings with seismic. They've also got a lot of folks that are looking to build out in the desert where they're pretty far away from fire stations, and building with wood is not as practical, so steel's a much better option for them. And Metroll's got a really, really nice product and really nice offering for that market out there. Synthia, it's great to have you on the show with us.
Thank you so much, John, for having me. I'm very excited.
Absolutely. Let's start off, just tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you came from outside the steel building industry, so tell us about kind of how you kind of came around to joining the steel industry and becoming a part of Metroll.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background actually started in a different industry. I spent several years working in the fitness world as a personal trainer and later as a fitness manager. While completing my MBA, over time, I realized that I wanted to transition into business and sales in a more technical industry. And that opportunity came when I joined Metroll. The steel building industry was new to me at first, but what I quickly realized is how essential it is to so many sectors, from agriculture to commercial and industrial projects. It's a very practical industry because you're helping customers solve real building needs.
That's very true, yeah.
What was your first impression of cold form buildings?
My first impression was how efficient the system is. Cold form steel is a great example of doing more with less. Because the members are roll formed into specific shapes, you can achieve a lot of structural strength while using less material compared to traditional structural steel. I was also impressed by how lightweight the components are and how quickly buildings can move from design to manufacturing and installation.
The speed to market is one of the biggest selling points with cold form that people don't really realize, is because you can get your engineering in just a couple of days and then have your building on site in 2 to 4 weeks once you get it ordered. One thing we can't help people with is permits, and that's not just a California problem, it's an Indiana problem as well. I had a building that we got it designed, and it took us literally just a couple of days, even with some custom engineering. I think it was like 3 days before they had it turned around. But then it took about 7 or 8 months before going back and forth between the local county and the state permit office. So,
yeah, absolutely. This is something that we can't really control. But what's really nice about the ACT buildings, that even express engineering is very, very practical. And it's a very big advantage because we can give our customer the plans, the engineering plans momentarily, which is super exciting. And that's, again, it's an advantage. And it really motivates them to move forward with us.
For sure. How long did it take you to learn the software and understand cold form buildings in general and how to design them?
There's definitely a learning curve. The software itself can be learned fairly quickly, but truly understanding how the buildings are engineered and assembled in the field takes more time. One interesting aspect of cold form systems is how closely design and manufacturing are connected. Once the building is engineered in the software, the manufacturing process can produce those components very precisely through automated roll forming equipment. That precision helps ensure consistent quality and makes installation in the field more efficient. Something that was a little challenging was working around the calculation warnings and engineering warnings that we get around the buildings. But again, having a support team that assists with those, we can move things fairly quickly as well.
Yeah. I started actually selling these buildings. Well, not selling, but I was managing the orders for these buildings, close to 20 years ago now, it seems like. And just the way the software has evolved over time, and just from the order entry perspective, I used to have to enter every single line item manually. I had to figure out the punch patterns manually because they just came over as a series of numbers and fractions, and create the punch pattern forms and things like that. And there's just been so much advancement over that time to where everything just gets directly imported, right from the customer service system into the mills, and everything just goes right out to the mill. There's very little, hands touching it along the way, which is really nice.
How is Metroll going to the market? What is your target region, and how are you presenting cold form buildings to your customers?
At Metroll, we're primarily focused on the Western United States right now, working with contractors, developers, and builders who are looking for efficient steel building solutions. One advantage of working with us is that customers are working directly with a manufacturer. That allows us to stay very competitive on pricing and also maintain strong lead times, which is extremely important in construction projects. A big part of our strategy is also education. Many people are familiar with traditional steel buildings, but may not yet fully understand the advantages of cold form systems. We even offer both in-person and virtual factory tours so customers and partners can see the manufacturing process behind the scenes. Once people see how the buildings are produced and understand the engineering and precision involved, it really helps build confidence in the system. Another advantage for us is that Metroll has a strong international background in steel building systems, so we're able to bring that global experience and proven processes into the United States market.
That's awesome. You guys have a pretty nice roll former out there too. You can do up to the what's the largest C size you guys can roll as far as the columns?
20 inches.
20 inches, yeah. So that you're talking, 70, 80 foot clear spans in some buildings and projects, which is awesome.
Yes, absolutely. And if there's no snow load, if let's say it's in Southern California, let's say in the desert, we can go up to like 95 feet.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. So, and again, you're building out in the desert. You can't get a fire truck out there very quickly. So it's much, much better to build with steel than it is to build with wood.
Absolutely.
So what challenges are you guys facing in the California market? I know seismic is always kind of a big deal, but what other challenges have you guys faced with it?
One of the biggest challenges is simply awareness. Many builders and developers are used to conventional construction methods, but once customers understand the engineering behind cold formed steel and see real examples of projects, they begin to recognize the advantages. For example, the components are lighter, which means you can often transport more material per truckload, which can help reduce freight costs and simplify project logistics. Another challenge, again, as you mentioned, John, is seismic. In California, working with counties is sometimes a little more challenging because they take a fairly long time to process the permit applications. I just shared actually a few days ago with the engineering team that one of our projects in Nevada with Clark County, it took our customer 15 months to get the permit approved. But again, it's really good for the customer going through this, and it's good for us because we understand what the county is asking for and how we can service the future customers in a better way. Same thing in California. We have a customer that is going through permitting in San Diego County, and we're very excited to get this project going and share the permitting process with the engineering team so they know exactly what is needed right now with San Diego County, what they're asking for, and how we can process those engineering plans and help future customers go through the permitting process easier and faster.
That's great to hear. That's one of the big purposes of the Cold Formed Association is we want to be able to grease those wheels. We want to make sure the codes get upgraded. As you said, a lot of it's about awareness and it's about understanding. Some guys see, secondary frame, what they would consider secondary framing components being used as the main frame. They're like, well, that's never going to hold up. It's never going to stand and everything. But this is how they do things in Australia. And it's translated very, very well to the United States. And the information you provide back to the engineers, it's only going to help and grease those wheels a little better. And as the association gets up and running and starts to make its presence known and the engineering behind cold form to more people, I think it's going to be a lot easier in the future, I hope.
Absolutely. Also, something that's very challenging is, again, it's education because people here, they think that when they think about a steel building, they only think about rigid frame, So when we show them a different type of steel, they're like, oh, but does this pass engineering? We're like, yeah, of course it does. We're not going to sell you something that doesn't pass engineering. We're not going to sell you something that's going to collapse. It's just a different type of steel that is more convenient and that is more cost efficient for your project.
Yeah. One of the fun things too is always, if you get somebody who's thinking about building something themselves and, walking them inside of a building, letting them see the components and just watching their eyes light up and realize, oh yeah, I think I need to run a couple lifts and things like that, but I can put this together. It doesn't require welding. It's bolts and it's screws. It's a lot easier than people realize.
Exactly. Especially with construction manual, it makes it relatively easier for the customer to know how to put it together.
And I agree with that, especially with all the updated videos that you've been doing, John. That is helping the customers as well.
That's great to hear. So anything we can do to make it easier, obviously, is a good thing. And the more training we can create and the more we can show somebody, again, whether it's through video or getting them on site or letting them do a hands-on training or something like that, then obviously the more people are going to be willing to give it a chance and stick with it.
What advice do you have for someone who wants to get into selling cold form?
My biggest advice would be to really learn the product and understand the customer's needs. In this industry, you're not just selling a building, you're helping solve a construction challenge. The more you understand how buildings are erected, what contractors care about, and how engineering and manufacturing work together, the better you'll be at positioning cold form solutions. Also, something that's very important is those buildings that we're selling, they're going to be there even after we're long gone, So we're selling something that is relatively permanent.
That's very true. Yeah. And it's always important to find out, what are you building this building for? Because, there's certain circumstances where you might have somebody, it's, for example, one of the buildings I saw with you, it was just, for an electrical company. We just need something to cover these boxes and keep them out of the rate, and those guys, you sell to those guys on the speed to market and the ease, you're going to put this up in a day and, we'll have your engineering plans very, very quickly on this. So you're selling them on speed and efficiency. But like if you're selling to a farmer, you're talking about a legacy. You're talking about something they're going to pass on to their kids and their grandkids. It's going to be there for a while. And, a building's an emotional investment. It's not like, which sandwich am I going to buy for lunch today? This is something that's going to be with them for a long time. It's going to be a point of pride. Finding out what they want that building for and what that reason is that they would need that building. And that's how you become their advocate. And that's how you make that connection with them and work them through that process.
100%. I agree.
Where do you hope to see cold form buildings going in the next couple of years?
I think cold form steel buildings will continue to grow as the construction industry looks for more efficient and sustainable building solutions. Steel is one of the most recycled materials in the world, and the cold forming process allows for very little waste in manufacturing. When you combine sustainability with efficiency and speed, it really aligns with where the construction industry is heading.
That's a really good point. I was actually just talking to somebody who was installing a cold form line at a factory, and they have a red iron line and some other different types of steel fabrication that they do there. He said it is the cleanest line in the entire building, from top to bottom, with not only with the amount of waste, the very little steel that gets wasted running these components, but just the fumes that come off of the other machines and all kinds of other types of pollutants that come off of them. And it is the cleanest line that they run in that factory.
Absolutely.
How is Metroll looking to grow with cold form? What plans do you guys have for continuing to expand the market and just to grow your base of customers in California and beyond?
So we've been working with a few new dealers that you've been sending to us, John, which is really exciting because we are also being exposed to other states other than California. We're also looking into expanding in other states. We are in the process of opening different manufacturers in other states so we can also focus on central the United States and the East Coast as well. So that's really exciting. It's also going to be in the few coming years, like nothing very, very soon, but it's coming up it's coming up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting. I think everybody just kind of feels that there's a buzz about it. Every year we go to MetrollCon, there's more people coming to the booth to talk about cold formed. There was a presentation on cold form this past year, and afterwards MetrollCon reached back out and said, "Hey, would you guys mind coming on doing a webinar?" Which happened, and then they reached out to us specifically and said, "We want to make sure we get cold form represented next year as well." So people are starting to take note. Everybody's talking about it. When I went looking for Tipton, the president of the MBCEA, at a show a couple years ago, and I just happened to mention MBCEA to one of my coworkers in the booth, Robert was standing right next to me and said, "What was that about that?" So, they're very much aware of cold formed, and they're very much on board with seeing cold form receive more recognition and getting more people involved in it. And it's just a really exciting place to be. So I'm glad to have Metroll as part of that community.
Absolutely. And also I want to mention that after the Palisades fire that happened last January in California, a lot of people are excited to go towards a steel building and steel components just because they understand now that this is a better solution for their needs. It's definitely, steel is not combustible. So it's really motivating people to go with that option. And then with the new designs, like at least at Metroll, we have a few printed design, like a wood grain design, a rustic design, a garden design. That's really exciting people to go with it because people that are looking to have a more burn dominium look, they want something that would set their building apart and it won't make it look industrial or commercial, so.
I saw a panel very similar to that. It was a different manufacturer, but it was somebody who had a cold form frame set up at a trade show, and looking at it from 20 feet away, it looked like a steel frame with wood paneling. But then you get up on close of it, and it looked like real wood. I mean, it was rolled metal panel. It was 3 foot wide, plastic rib type panel. So it is really amazing the printed materials that they've got out there. You can get that look now.
I agree with you.
Synthia, we want to thank you for coming on the show with us today. Again, we're very glad to have you and Metroll as part of the cold form community. Excited to see what you guys are doing with the product and cold form buildings in general, just sort of raising that awareness. You guys are in a really unique market. You're greatly positioned to help people who are looking with seismic issues, with fire safety issues and things like that out there in Southern California. It's very exciting to see manufacturers coming on board like Metroll who offer such a great product and have a lot to offer to the community. So well, thank you for your time and your experiences with cold form. This has been Cold Form Buildings Made Easy with John Cosper and Lauren Toole, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much, John, for having me. It's been a pleasure talking about the industry and the work we're doing here at Metroll.
Thank you so much. We'll see you guys next time.